What's going on, Warriors? It's your boy, Lionheart, and um, how you doing? I'm doing good. I hope you guys are doing good. And we're about to get into this one. As normal, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Deeply appreciate you. And yeah, we're about to get into this one. And this one is saucy. Sad and saucy. Yeah. So, Sony, they nuked 900 game developers from their PlayStation studios. From all different types of companies. Yeah. They have a studio called Media Molecule, gone. Like, that studio is completely gone. Yeah. There's a British-based company. Yeah. Insomniac Games, they're nuking staff from Insomniac Games. They're nuking developers from Naughty Dog. They are nuking developers from... There was another studio that they were... Naughty Dog, Insomniac Games, Media Molecule, Bungie. Gone. Deleted. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Their breadwinners is Insomniac Games. They make so much money from those studios alone, and those are the studios that you choose to nuke. Makes no sense, but it's going to make a little bit of sense in terms of their warped ideology in a bit. Yeah, let me explain. So what happened was, you had the game Spider-Man. Yeah, that game sold, I think it was like 50 million. Yeah, massive game. And they made another game, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a smaller game. Much smaller. I think it was roughly about half the size of the first Spider-Man game, or about half the size of it, or a little bit less than half the size of the original Spider-Man game. Yeah, but it was still a full game. It was a good game. It just didn't have filler in it. It didn't have as many side missions, but it had a full story mode without filler in the story or anything like that. In terms of the graphics, it was better than the first Spider-Man game. In terms of the combat, it was better. The only thing is just that it didn't have as much cutscenes and story content and DLC. Yeah, that game sold over 12 million. Yeah, now we have a problem where they're thinking the development studio that made Spider-Man was a smaller studio, was a smaller team. They made it in a shorter amount of time, and it costs almost a quarter of what the first Spider-Man game cost to make. Do the development studios need to be as big as they are? So they're probably justifying nuking Insomniac Games, 9% staff gone, over all of their Sony Studios teams. As I say, Media Molecule, Naughty Dog, Insomniac Games, Bungie. 9% all around the board, plus one whole studio gone. They're justifying it in their brains, these executives that don't know anything. That's what I'm saying. That's what it comes to these studio executives, man, and CEOs. They don't actually know anything. All they know is they get people around them that tell them buzzwords and tell them what is the current trend of the video game market right now, and then they'll have them say work on this, and when it doesn't work out, guess what happens? They want to keep getting their bonuses. They want to keep making their money, profits year to date, but they don't want to cut their own bonuses. They don't want to cut their pay packets. They don't want to cut their idiotic projects, right? Like, imagine, what was it? They made like a PlayStation handheld that could only be played in, that can stream your PlayStation device on the handheld device, and you can only operate it in your house. Imagine if they did invest hundreds of millions into that BS, nonsensical, in-house, portable machine. Pointless machine. How much hundreds of millions would they have saved if they didn't work on that? And they could have invested that money into those studios. But they still want to keep their bonuses. They still want to make those nonsensical consoles, handheld consoles, and £300 earphones, an exclusive Wi-Fi signal called Pulse. It's nonsense, man. It's nonsense. They're drunk on power. This is the reason I say you cannot let one studio, one company monopolize gaming, because they will screw up, they will take the piss, and they will just try to nickel and dime us. PlayStation, Sony are lucky that Microsoft right now is so whack. They are lucky. Oh my goodness, bro. We see this all the time. Look at Rocksteady. Rocksteady is a shell of what it used to be. The developers are still good developers in Rocksteady, but you can tell that they're being forced to make this game. They made their name off Batman, a single-player narrative game. WB Studios, after they've made the Batman game, say, you know what, we need a live service game. You're game developers, you can make games, which they can. Make this game live service. I mean, who cares about Justice League, man? Like, who cares? Nobody cares, man. I mean, it's a cool idea. It was a cool concept. Like back in the day when they made that first movie with Will Smith. Cool. One-off. The end. But in terms of making them like a big franchise, like people are going to be involved in, nobody gives a damn about them, bro. Like, no believable reality or whichever, even if you were to cast the greatest domain expansion genjutsu ever, yeah, there is no fooling or reality distortion that could make me think the Suicide Squad can beat the Justice League. You cannot make a film or a video game or an animation in which you can make it so that the Suicide Squad beats the Justice League, and I'm going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea. Absolutely not. It's just... So you're lost there, and you make all these characters in that Suicide Squad game. They're just... It's just a shooting game. In a game where you've got Flash, who's the fastest man alive. You've got Superman, who is Superman. You've got Wonder Woman, yeah, the Amazonian. You've got Batman, who is a billionaire with basically an unlimited bank account. You've got the Green Lantern, right? The Lantern Corps. And you got the Suicide Squad. A guy that can't miss a shot. A woman that wields a baseball bat. A guy that is an idiotic imbecile and throws around a boomerang. And, yeah, we got King Shark, who is legit, yeah? But that's it. They're going to beat the Justice League. Not really believable. Right, and then you make it a live service game. You force the studio that don't make live service games, not interested in live service games, to make a live service game. The game has failed. I wonder why. Look at a game like there was a game before by a company called Citron Games. They made a game called Burnout. Burnout was an amazing game. EA bought them. And they even did an interview, I remember, where the founders of Burnout said, yeah, we've been bought by EA, but they promised us they're going to allow us to make our Burnout games. They'll allow us to make our Burnout game. And they did. They let them make Burnout Paradise, which was one of the best arcade driving smash crash amazing cool games driving ever. To this day, for me, it's the best crazy arcade driving game. That game is amazing. The music, the graphics, the cars, the activities to do in that game. And it was just a front. EA just wanted to nuke Burnout. They wanted to destroy the competition so that they could have their competition, who are extraordinarily talented, steal all their technology, steal all their innovation, and inject that into their franchise, which was Need for Speed. And they did that. And that, for vampires they are, they bled that studio, Citron Games, out. They nuked half of the studio, brought in half of their people from whatever studio made Need for Speed. The next game they made was actually pretty good, Hot Pursuit, but that just shows how godlike Citron Games are. Made another game, wasn't that good. Profits were down, need to make some cuts. They cut another half of that Citron Games, the original people, which left only 15% of the original Citron Games. Then they brought in another 15%, which makes 75% of the people from Need for Speed, and only 50% of the original Citron Games. You see what's happening? Same thing is happening with all these other studios, with what Sony is doing. We see this all the time, where these companies will buy these amazing, talented studios, and then once they games are like still making a lot of money, the breadwinners for Sony's games are Insomniac Games. Let's not make any mistake about it. They're the breadwinners. Naughty Dog are the breadwinners. Bungie are the breadwinners. But still, they're the ones that are getting nuked. What the hell? And it's all because of greed. Sony PlayStation are greedy. PlayStation, I don't know how many units it sold, man. I think I read somewhere where it sold like 50 million units of the PlayStation 5 has been sold. And they say, oh, we're projecting that the PlayStation 5 is going to slow down in terms of sales. Inevitably, it's going to slow down. Because now everybody that wants a PlayStation 5 has got a PlayStation 5. People are still going to buy PlayStation 5, but not at the rapid rate that they were originally buying it at. Of course not. They've already said that they're going to make it a PlayStation Pro. And PlayStation 5 is already in its late cycle. It's in its last cycle of life. You've already said that, man. So you're not inspiring confidence in the PlayStation 5 anymore. So it's just crazy to me, man. It's just greed at the end of the day. Yeah, because you're not going to be able to make the most top quality games if you are nuking the studio that is making those godlike games. You're reducing the actual headcount of the studio that has accumulated a massive pool of talented game developers. And you have to invest in the game developers in order for those game developers to keep on making good games. When you've got a company like Insomniac Games, for example, you have a Ratchet and Clank team, you have a Spider-Man 1 team, and you have the Spider-Man 2 team. The team that worked on Spider-Man 1 is a different team to the team that worked on Miles Morales. The team that is working on the Wolverine game, for example, is the team that it's comprised of the team that made Miles Morales and some of the people from Ratchet and Clank. That's 3 different factions within Insomniac Games, and then you're going to nuke that studio. So obviously you're going to be hindering their productivity in terms of making games. Because the studio, the higher up studio says, well, you don't need to make that many, you don't need to have that many people working on your games in order for the game to be made. And the issue that I can clearly see with, say, for example, with Insomniac Games and Sony, that happened because of Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales. Miles Morales, they were able to make a game in a short amount of time with higher quality than the original Spider-Man, and it still sold over 10 million. But they're not looking at the bigger picture. When it came to Spider-Man Miles Morales, they already had the assets from Spider-Man 1. That's the reason they were able to make Spider-Man 2 so quickly from Spider-Man Miles Morales. They already have the assets in place. When you're making a brand new game, you're going to have to make all those assets all over again. And that's when the process is going to take longer. That's why you have a game like Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Remake came out about 3 to 4 years ago. And they've already made Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I'm playing that game right now. And my mind is absolutely blown at how incredible that game is and how big that game is. And the absolute quality is just mind-boggling. Yeah, but I think I can see what they did. They already had the assets in place. They already have the engine. They have the studio. They already have the devs. The people are extremely passionate and prideful about that game. And you can feel the love in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You can feel it. They cared about everything in that game. Yeah. They already had the assets in place, and they were already working on this game, Rebirth, while they were working on Remake. And the same thing's going to happen with the third game. They've already started working on the third Final Fantasy game. And that's the thing is with these Spider-Man games. They're already working on the next Spider-Man 3 game before this game has actually even finished. It's even wrapped. But these executives don't understand it. All they care about is, well, we're paying there's too many people working there. We need to cut the count so we can save some money. Cut your bonuses. How's about that? How's about not investing in this idiotic project like the PlayStation 5 portable, whatever it is, and it's not even a portable device. You can only, it streams from your PlayStation 5 to this screen. Your PlayStation 5 has to be on. And even I think the thing costs like £500. And you have to pay £300 for earphones, so if you want to have sound. Because it uses an exclusive Bluetooth signal for sound called Pulse. So essentially you're paying, like, I don't know, £700 or something like that in total for the whole machine. And you can't even use it outside of your house. You can use it inside your house when your console is on. It's just, you invested so much money in garbage. And then the studios in PlayStation, they have them working on BS projects that they probably don't want to be working on. Leave the studios to work on what they can work on, instead of forcing them to work on projects that they don't want to work on. And then the game doesn't come out, it doesn't sell, and then you have to nuke that studio, nuke the developers in the studio. The best games come from the studios and the developers that want to make that project. They care about that. When they came originally to Insomniac Games and said, what game would you like to work on? Insomniac Games said, Spider-Man. Please, if you could let us work on a Spider-Man game, we would love that. And it's probably the same thing happened with Wolverine. They probably were asked, what game would you like to make? And they said, we'd like to make a Wolverine game. Same thing probably happened with Bethesda. And they said, what game would you like to work on? And then they said, Arcane said, Blade. We'd like to work on Blade. Passion. They care about what they're working on. Instead of forcing a studio to work on some BS project. And when they do that, you know what you get? You know what you get? You get Rocksteady Studios working on Suicide Squad. You get, I don't know, all these other studios working on games that they don't really want to be working on. And then the game comes out absolute garbage. And then you wonder why that company, that studio's getting nuked. It's not because of the game developers. It's because of the executives. It's because of CEOs. They're forcing these developers to work on projects they don't want to work on, that they don't care about. It's very hard to be motivated when you're working on something that you don't care about. And if they're forced, they literally just wanted to make money. They just want to make money. They say, oh, we want live service games. We want monetization games. We want free-to-play games. How do we do that? Get that studio. What studios do we have? Oh, we got that studio. They're an amazing studio. Have them make that. And now we're getting 9% of Sony PlayStation game studios getting nuked. And you know, none of those people, those executives in PlayStation, they're not going to receive a reduction in their pay packets. No. But it's the people that are working on the front lines, the developers that are making the games, that make the money, that get paid the least money, and the ones that are in the firing line that get fired when they're forced to make something that they don't want to work on. Greed, man. As I said, PlayStation are lucky that Xbox are whack right now. They're so whack. They are hemorrhaging. This is Xbox, by the way. They are hemorrhaging their install base because their model is garbage. Their business model sucks. Look at this, man. Gaming is the biggest media money making machine in the world right now, more than film, more than music, more than cinema, TV shows, streaming, cable, anything. It's gaming is number one. But there's so many different entities in gaming and they don't have their shit together. And so they're messing up and they're too focused on trying to to follow trends because you've got the executives that have bought their way into these gaming studios that are trying to force the actual real gamers that make the games to make stuff that prints money, instead of focusing on making an incredible game first. That's the reason why when you get a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, you got to cherish it. You got to enjoy it. When you get a game like Witcher 3, you got to cherish it. You got to enjoy it. When you get a game like Devil May Cry 5, you got to cherish it. You got to enjoy it. A game like Monster Hunter, cherish it and enjoy it, because we're getting taken over by all these gacha games and free-to-play games and live service games and all this type of nonsense. And to me, that's not real gaming. When they try to fill the game full of microtransactions and FOMO and just DLC nonsense, paywalling in-game content, adding shops in the game that will just make your experience in the game significantly more fun. So you can tell that certain bits of a game has been cut out and put behind a paywall. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to talk about. You know, just Sony, you know, being dumb, greedy, pure greed, nuking 9% of their game development studios, which is they think is going to be conducive to productivity, but it's not. Because what's going to happen when you've nuked so many good people from your studio, and a game like Insomniac Games, they work on a new Wolverine game, and now they've got to take people off their Spider-Man team and off their Ratchet and Clank team and have them work on a Wolverine game. So guess what? That game is suffering. And then the new people that you've brought into this thing, now they have to learn the ropes of what's going on here. What we're doing. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Want to know what your thoughts are about this Sony PlayStation greed and foolishness, nonsensical, bad decision making. And yeah, Warriors, I want to say thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, stay blessed, and I'll catch you next one. Laters.